Hello there, my name is Ara, aka I Ate Zebra, and today we're going to be discussing episode 1 of The Bad Batch. I'm going to be doing a breakdown of the events that happened in this episode, along with a few Easter eggs and predictions at the end of this video. So let's dive right on in. It opens up on the planet of Kala, where we meet up with a young Caleb Doom, which fans of the Rebels series will recognize is Kanan Jarrus. Freddie Prinze Jr. reprises his role, which should be kind of obvious because that's the deepest voice I've ever heard for a child, but I won't complain too much because it was a pleasant surprise for me, and I'm imagining for other Rebels fans out there. So we see Caleb along with his Jedi Master, Depa Billaba, as they're being overrun by a squadron of battle droids. And as they're looking for reinforcements, our boys come through and wreck it. No pun intended. And we see Wrecker, Crosshair, Hunter, Echo, and Tech take out the battle droid. So the boys take out that group of battle droids. And as the dust is starting to settle, there is chatter over the comms with the reports that General Grievous has just been engaged by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Utapau. And if you are familiar with Revenge of the Sith, this is just mere moments before Order 66 goes out. As they're getting ready to make their next plans, they decide that the Bad Batch, along with Caleb Doom, were going to scout a bit ahead, while Depa Billaba and the remaining troops kind of gather their reinforcements before moving forward. Unfortunately, for Depa Billaba at least, Order 66 goes out and her team turns on her and starts firing, as we've seen in other Star Wars medium that takes place around this time. Luckily, Caleb was closer to the Bad Batch, which were utterly confused by what was happening, as we learn later on in the episode that their inhibitor chips do not work the same as regular clones, which is why they did not execute Order 66 on command. We see Caleb trying to turn around to go back and save his Jedi Master as Depa Billaba tells him to run, which was mentioned in Rebels when Kanan reflects on this incident with the Grand Inquisitor. Caleb then runs off, listening to his Jedi Master, and as he is running away, Hunter and Crosshair pursue him. Under Hunter's orders, he tells Wrecker, Tech, and Echo to remain behind and try to figure out what's going on by speaking with the regs. As they're chasing Caleb, Hunter is trying to talk to him to ease his thoughts and protect him because he's also confused as to what's happening. However, we see Hunter, once he receives the order to execute the Jedi, without wavering, he shoots at Caleb. Luckily, he misses him, and Caleb is able to disarm Crosshair and run off. Now it's just Hunter and Caleb running off with Hunter pursuing him. As he's escaping, Hunter decides not to attack. However, Crosshair notices that when Caleb finally does escape, that Hunter is unusually looking straight ahead and not down, even though Hunter told him that Caleb fell, which is the first arousal of suspicions in Crosshair. The team end up meeting back up with Hunter telling everyone that, hey, kid died, nothing to see here, let's all move on. And the team, along with the other clones, head on back to Kamino. Once they arrive on Kamino, they notice a lot of the regs are still acting very, very strange. And they run into my new favorite character for the first time, Omega. Omega is a medical assistant to Nala Se, and she takes a great interest in the Bad Batch. As we find out a little bit later in the episode, she is one and the same with them and is their little sister. She is also a Jango Fett clone that is born with a desirable mutation, if you will. So as she's speaking with the team, she kind of shows interest that she wants to join up with them. However, she's still a kid, so Hunter and the rest of them are kind of like, kid, what are you doing over here? Back up. So they kind of go their separate ways briefly as Hunter and the rest of the team go into the briefing that is being held for all the troops on Kamino. During the briefing, we hear Palpatine's infamous speech that is given in Revenge of the Sith after he has been attacked by the Jedi, where we see democracy die in thunderous applause, according to our lovely, lovely Senator Padme Amidala. So in the midst of all this, Hunter and the rest of the team notice that the regs are really acting more strange than usual, which they've kind of been picking up on. And this is when Tech starts to really form his hypothesis that there's something within the clones' DNA that's causing them to act this way, and that they, as defective clones, do not seem to be as affected by it, which we later find out is absolutely correct. Just due to their mutations, they have more liberty and free will compared to the other clones. However, that's not the case with the entire team. The team then moves on to the mess hall, where some asshole decides to call them the Sad Batch. How rude. How rude. And that's why you got a tray to the back of the head, in which it ends up being one of the most epic food fights and a little bit of a lunchroom brawl. We see the team pretty much showing that even with all those regular clones, they'll still beat their ass, honestly. Due to them causing a bit of a ruckus and getting in a big, not only just food fight, but kind of an all-out brawl, Echo ends up being knocked out in the process, and he wakes up into the medical bay where he's hooked up to a bunch of machines due to them just monitoring him to make sure he's okay, which ends up causing a PTSD type reaction in him just due to the experimentation that happened to him at the hands of the Techno Union on Skeko Minor. And we meet back up with, which I consider my personal favorite Easter egg of the episode, is one of the medical droids that kind of tags along with Omega, but this isn't the first time we saw that droid, as he was helping Fives discover the inhibitor chip conspiracy plot in Clone Wars. The medical droid unfortunately breaks to the rest of the Bad Batch that they're defective, which obviously they already knew. And as they're making their way back to their barracks, they get called in to do a simulation, which they've done plenty of times before. They thought they were going to be reprimanded, but for them, so much better. They get to fight. What's much better than that for them? So as they're doing the battle simulation, they are being observed by Grand Admiral Tarkin, which most of you will know from Star Wars A New Hope, as well as Clone Wars, Rebels, Rogue One. He's kind of popped up a little bit everywhere. The boys move through the simulation with ease, as to be expected, and Tarkin, looking on, he doesn't really care for clones anyways. He decides, you know what, let's take things up a notch, and uses live ammo. And he decides to do this while also testing out which looked to be an earlier model of the battle droids that we see in the season 2 of The Mandalorian. And they end up firing on the squad, and Wrecker ends up getting hit in the shoulder, and he did not take that lightly, to say the least. And the boys eventually overcome this obstacle as to be expected. However, the fact that they used live ammo on them grew more seeds of resentment amongst the team for this new budding empire. Looking to test them even further, Tarkin decides to assign them on a special mission to the planet of Onderon to take out a group of insurgents. On Onderon, they encounter the group of quote-unquote insurgents, which they notice is made up of predominantly children elderly, and other displaced refugees. And that's when they realize that this group is being led by Saw Gerrera, which we've seen in plenty of other properties, again, like the Clone Wars, Rogue One, and Rebels. Saw Gerrera was trained by Captain Rex and Anakin Skywalker, as mentioned in this episode, to be leaders amongst their people to fight back separatist forces. So the group was very surprised when they realized that that was their targets, as they were allies of the Republic. And now, for some reason, without explanation, they are now enemies of the Empire. Saw then starts having a discussion with the guys, kind of explaining what's happening to the best of his knowledge, which ends up kind of lighting more fuel to the fire of their growing distrust for this new empire and their place within it. However, one member of the team does not seem to be on the same page as everyone else. As they are leaving to go back to the ship, trying to process what they've just learned, Crosshair and Hunter get into an argument, with Crosshair telling Hunter he's not fit to lead because he's not following orders and that he should not be questioning his orders. And that's when we realize that they've been being spied on the entire time by Tarkin. After discovering Tarkin's deceit, Hunter tells the rest of the squad that Omega, before leaving for this mission on Onderon, had disclosed to Hunter to kind of keep an eye out for Tarkin, and he has it out for them and something may be wrong. So he relays this back to the team, and that is when Tech shares with the rest of the group that Omega is one of them. She is also a defective clone. She is the only female clone that we are aware of as well. So being a part of their group, Hunter decides that, you know what, the best thing for us to do is go back and save her. So they decide to return to Kamino on a mission to get Omega out of there. Once they arrive back on Kamino, they realize nobody kind of checked in on the craft that was landing, which is very unusual. And once they arrived in the hangar, they realized, where is everybody? And that is when Tarkin and the rest of the clones on Kamino surround them and pretty much put them under arrest for treason for not taking out Saw and the rest of the quote-unquote insurgents, which were just civilian refugees, just to be aware. So they end up taking them into detainment. Meanwhile, while all that was happening, little Omega was being a little snippy and was going through the Bad Batch's barracks, kind of going through their stuff to get an idea of more about who these people are, and ends up winding herself up in detainment as well. Luckily, they must not have that many detainment cells on Kamino, and they all end up in one cell together, making that mission to find Omega a lot easier. While in detainment, Crosshair is taken separately to be examined under Tarkin's orders. Tarkin noticed that Crosshair was showing loyalty to the Empire where the other clones in his troop were not. So he was very curious as to why that was. And that is when we find out that Crosshair's inhibitor chip is more intact than the remaining Bad Batch members. So with that being said, Tarkin decides, you know what? Let's turn this baby up a couple more notches and cranks that inhibitor chip up to 11, if you will. So Crosshair goes pretty much to a whole different level of skill set. So I would imagine this meaning he is going to be very, very lethal in the future. While Crosshair is being experimented on, the team hatch a plan to escape the cell. As they're escaping the cell and making their way to the hangar to get on their ship, they go looking for Crosshair, and unfortunately, Crosshair found them first, but not as a friend, but as an enemy. And Crosshair goes and fires on his older brothers. And in this bit of confusion, we see them trying not to hurt Crosshair, however, taking out the other clone troopers because they could care less about Regs. They are really only concerned about their brother. And as they're going to escape, Crosshair attempts to shoot at Hunter, Luckily, our girl Omega shoots first, and with her first time ever shooting a blaster, she hits the target very well and catches even Crosshair by surprise, who is one of the top marksmen in the Grand Army of the Republic. And with that being said, they are able to finally make their escape onto the ship, where we see the team jet off into the beautiful, bright, starry horizon of hyperspace onto their next adventure. And that's where the episode leaves off, with the team mentioning that their next stop is J19. I personally think that next stop to J19 is the team going to meet up with Cut LaQuain, a deserter clone that has children with a Twi'lek that we meet in the Deserter episode of the Clone Wars. I personally think on this stop is where they're going to meet up with Captain Rex, as Captain Rex is now also considered a deserter, even though he is being presumed dead. If they don't see Captain Rex, I think they may meet up with Gregor or Wolf, as their stories are kind of still a mystery, since we kind of go from seeing them in Clone Wars to then seeing them again as older men in Rebels, without any explanation as to what happened with their inhibitor chips just yet, and if they actually did follow through with executing Order 66. Even though in the show they said they did not, that's still to be seen. I also think that we'll find out later on in the season that Omega is actually Force sensitive. Throughout the episode, she displays prescience and the ability to kind of sense things before they happen, as well as amazing reflexes and the ability to, I mean, she never shot a blaster before. She was able to disarm Crosshair of all people. So that kind of indicates a little something special about our girl. With her being Force sensitive, I believe this may be an early experimentation with Palpatine's DNA and his desire to have clones, as we've seen in the sequel trilogy, as well as hinted at in season 2 of The Mandalorian, which will kind of explain that blonde hair she has. Personally, I believe this season is going to be filled with plenty of cameos to come, seeing as episode 1 we got Caleb Doom, Depa Billaba, and Saw Gerrera and Tarkin, which I did not expect at all. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of our favorites come in throughout the series. We are expected to see Fennec Shan from The Mandalorian, Captain Rex as well, which has been shown in the trailers. A few other characters I think we may see. We might get a Grogu cameo, which I think would be super awesome. That would be a great way to tie in The Mandalorian to the animated Star Wars series. Even though, again, we are getting that Fennec Shan cameo, I think Grogu would just be fun to add in the mix. Do I think it's gonna happen? Probably not, but who wouldn't love to see more Grogu? Am I right? So that wraps up today's review of episode 1, Aftermath of The Bad Batch. I will see you guys for the rest of the season and some other content along the way. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave whoever your favorite clone trooper is down in the comment section below. And I will see you next time. Bye.